Eric Stafford, car and driver, managing editor of news. I'm going to read the headline because it's a question a lot of us have. The 2028 Ford Ranchero is a $30,000 electric truck worth waiting for. So, is it?
We sure hope so. I mean, we don't there's a lot of details we don't know for sure if it's gonna be called Ranchero. We don't know for sure what it's gonna look like. I mean, our story that we posted today gives people a glimpse of what we think it will look like. We've seen spy photos. Ford even has its own website up right now where they're kind of, building up a little bit of excitement by showing it off early, in their own curated way. But some of the details that we have so far as far as pricing, interior space, the things that they're aiming for with this truck, have us pretty excited, I think.
Well, let's walk through what we know about it. I mean, we know so much. It seems such a weird thing that we knew more about the plant than the vehicles that were going to come out of the plant in
Sure.
Lexington, right?
Sure. Yeah, I believe this one's gonna be built in Louisville.
Louisville. Thank you.
Louisville,
I said
Lexington, same
Louisville.
thing,
Yes, yes, yes.
Kentucky.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, they had to get a head start on the plant, right, before they got to actually building, vehicles there. But it sounds like the whole plan is not only the universal EV, electric vehicle platform, but also the universal EV production process. And that's supposed to be the sort of revolutionary Model T-like moment that they're going for, simplifying things, reducing complexity, and making electric vehicles affordable for most people, right? Like that's sort of the missing piece here. You've got the Chevy Bolt, the Nissan Leaf as these sub $32,000 EVs right now, but they're few and far between right now. So I think that's where Ford hopes to capitalize with this new truck.
I was thinking about the small car ladder. Used to be, if you're a manufacturer, you had the small car ladder. I got somebody into a base vehicle and they worked their way up as they started a family and financially became more, liquid.
Sure.
It doesn't exist anymore. It really doesn't. So these touch points with a vehicle like this, it feels like and I hate this phrase, it's a paradigm shift, but it really is, isn't it? I mean, the way we're looking at how Detroit and the world are going to sell cars.
Yeah, I mean, I think automakers have really struggled to adjust. I mean, as more competitors have come into the market, I mean, with as far as electric truck goes, there's very few options that are affordable. But now the Slate truck coming in is sort of this interesting option. And when you talk about touch points, I mean, I don't know how much you've seen of that vehicle, but it's going to be very bare bones
Oh
and
yeah.
very utilitarian, which, aligns with the truck sort of philosophy going back years. But now people do have an expectation of quality, of features, of technology. So I think with this truck, they're gonna have to do a balancing act of giving people what they want and expect for the marketed price point, but also staying in that, you know what I mean? So there's gonna be I think the Maverick is a perfect blueprint for how they've achieved great features, a affordable price, but also, if you've sat in a Maverick, it's got a lot of plastics and stuff, but it doesn't feel cheap, if you will, because they've done a good job of masking it, and they've done a good job of making a product that we really like. It's one of our 10 best trucks. So, if they can apply that same, strategy with this truck, I think it could do well.
Just started reviewing a Lobo. I've got the Maverick Lobo in my driveway
There you
right
go.
now, I'm with you 100%. It's one of the best. It's just fun. It's smart. You look around going, I like this. And I
Yeah,
harkens back to when I was a kid. I'm old enough to remember Chevy Love and Ford
sure.
Couriers and those trucks, you beat on those things. I mean, there was nothing inside them, but yeah, we expect more. Um, Ford gets rid of the Escape.
Yep.
Gone, right?
Yep.
So, they don't really do small cars. I don't think there is there an American manufacturer that does small cars?
I mean, I guess you could. I mean, and you have a small car size wise, but they don't have the economy label of being affordable. I mean, I think you've got
Yeah.
like the Kia K4. You've got a Chevy Trax, and it's not a car, but it's one of the smaller vehicles you can buy, right? So it is kind of how do you define small, and then you have economy. It's kind of, there's not a lot of options when it comes to affordable vehicles, and size wise, everything has been getting bigger. It seems like every year, every new generation, you've got, and this has been going on for years, obviously, but you've got bigger interior, bigger exterior, larger grills, bigger screens. So everything continues to grow, and you can't not increase the price essentially when you have to put more technology in it. You have to fit it with more safety features. It just seems to be a byproduct of where we're at right now. And people are just looking for something they can afford that doesn't break the bank. And then it comes back to this truck. And now it's like, do you go Maverick? Do you go Ranchero? It gives people an option, I suppose, but Ford's betting pretty big on this, and then the other models that are expected to spawn from this platform.
Eric Stafford with us, Car and Driver magazine. Everybody go to Car and Driver and read this article, managing editor of news. And you touched on something that I was thinking about. This is a big swing for Ford. This is not just rolling out another vehicle. This is again, they're like, look, we want to go this way with it. I was at a Detroit, one of the press association luncheons at the Hudson Building with Mary Barra. She
Sure.
never backed off GM's commitment to EVs. She didn't blink. She was like, "Look, it didn't launch the way we wanted it to, but we still believe in EVs." And Ford's doing the same thing. Um, will EVs just be part of the overall landscape for automobile owners in the next 10 years, or are we going to see a bigger push than even maybe most consumers realize?
I mean, I think it's hard to predict, right? Like there are so many variables. There's like demand has been slowing. You've got, the federal tax credits have gone. It's kind of inflection point, I would say, of how it's going to play out. And I think a lot of the domestic automakers made the mistake of trying to get the high profit margin. They wanted people love trucks. Let's do trucks, right? You have the Hummer EV, which was like this big, powerful kind of here's what it could be, which I thought was an interesting, experiment. And then you have the F-150 Lightning, which is like we've got America's best selling truck. We're going to put an EV powertrain in it, constricted by price, right? But people,
Oh, yeah.
initially the early adopters, there was interest, and then it kind of flamed out. And you look at Silverado EV, Sierra EV, these other electric vehicles that are really expensive and maybe have that trouble with towing or some of the range, and then there's the entire, infrastructure of charging. There's so many variables that are just kind of making it a kind of I don't want to say toxic, but it's just it's tough right now for automakers to identify what the forecast is for EVs, and I think Ford is making the right decision to try to aim for affordability, and you've even seen it with, GM bringing back the Bolt. They're like, "We got rid of it, but we're not." EV sales are kind of up and down depending on which one you're looking at, so they bring back the Volt, or the Bolt as this affordable entry point, and it was a great vehicle that people really liked, and I don't know off the top of my head how well it's selling, but they clearly brought it back for a reason, knowing that there was a market for people who want something that's, again, affordable, which is, varies among people. But the average new price of a car right now is $52,000. I don't think most people, middle America, thinks that's affordable. So, yeah, it was kind of a topsy turvy way to answer your question, but it's just really hard to predict, I'd say.
It's an interesting time. It really is. I mean, I'm here in Detroit and I drive 75 and I drive right by it's one of the Slate facilities right there.
Sure.
And I see it, and then we're starting to see the Ranchero in Dearborn. And I remember a couple of weeks ago, was it out west? People were seeing it. For
Yeah,
people who
they
don't
had.
understand, this was the shift, though, that Ford got out of their own way and took the brain trust and put them out west. Explain that to people, Eric, because I don't think a lot of people know this story.
So, yeah, I did not go out. I haven't seen the facility out in, I believe it's Long Beach, but one of our contributing editors, John Volker, went out there and sort of experienced, got to meet with the engineers. And my understanding was that they went out west because there is that sort of like software defined vehicle philosophy, and going out there and sort of doing what some of the other startups have done. Tesla, obviously, you have Lucid out west. And so my understanding is they went out there to try to capitalize on that sort of Silicon Valley software defined ideology, bring people there who were already out on the West Coast, get all, these great minds under one roof. And that was sort of my understanding of why they went that route and established that headquarters out there.
Now the architecture too, batteries, we've become so aware of batteries and materials and how much you really understand as a consumer, you hear so much, and you may not know this, but sometimes everything on social media is not true.
Wait, what?
It's true though. People vomit stuff back to you, but I
Sure.
do know that Ford has agreed upon architecture. It's not going to be the fastest charging EV,
Nope.
right? Um, I'd assume we're gonna see capability with Tesla, right? I mean, they've kinda gone down that road with that. I would hope so on some level.
You would imagine I would expect them to have a NACS charge port if that's what you're getting at. They've already
Yeah.
said that they're doing the 400-volt architecture versus the, 800-volt, which is charges much quicker, has other benefits, but again, that was a decision that they thought was the best move to keep costs down. So they, expect that the 400-volt system will be enough, that the you know, charging speeds will be competitive, I would imagine. They haven't, released any of that information. And then this is pure speculation, but as part of that, when our contributing editor went out there and they had sort of the come to our West Coast headquarters, let's kind of take you behind the scenes. There was talk of they had kind of mentioned range being a factor in that 300. They had offhandedly mentioned 300 miles being sort of that kind of bogey, and so I do believe that they are going to try to hit that mark with this truck. They haven't said anything about battery capacities. We know that they're doing the lithium iron phosphate batteries, which are lower cost. They're not as common, but I believe that's the same battery Chevy uses in the Bolt. Um, so they're kind of hitting sort of these markers that they have established. And then, as far as the platform itself goes, they've really worked to reduce the complexity of the wiring harness. Compared with the first gen EVs from Ford, the Mach-E and the F-150 Lightning, I'm told it's like 4,000 feet shorter. It's considerably lighter, more compact, and the key word they were going for was efficiency with this truck. And how can they make it? Every detail was trying to extract as much efficiency from it as they could. So we'll see. We'll see it. How it turns out.
Feels some way almost like EVs now are almost like a restaurant, and the analogy I give is that you can go to a restaurant 10 times, you have one bad meal, you may never go back. You see people there's 9 people who love their EV. One person has a software glitch where they get stuck 3 times by the road, or the Lightning doesn't charge properly, the range anxiety, or it's under 300 miles, and they're out. They tell the story, and they'll never go back again. Um, Ford, let's be honest, their recent vehicle launches have not been 100% quality. I mean, even as we record this, I've been reading stuff about, Explorer having recalls in some of their editions, and then the Corsair as well. It feels like a common thing. Is this hyperbole? Ford has to have this right out of the box, out of the box.
No, I don't think there's any doubt that, first impressions are huge, especially when the stakes seem a bit higher because you're already transitioning from what you think is normal and comfortable, right? Gas powered vehicles, maybe even hybrids, they've been around. You've known what to expect. And then you get into an EV and maybe you have a new type of challenge that you're not used to, and it spoils the experience right out the gate. People who buy a vehicle, they might be more trapped in, but if you have a lease or something, maybe you're trying to get out of that lease. Hey, I'm going to the Maverick. I saw it in the showroom. It was about the same price, but this truck doesn't quite drive the way I expected. I mean, we're talking about an entirely new platform here. So it's not just going to come out and be like, well, the Maverick was great, so this should be good too. There is a lot of different variables that could affect how people feel about this truck. So you're right. Ford needs to get it right for sure.
It's an interesting time. I keep saying that, but it really is. There's so much going on, and I've driven you were talking about the Hummers, and, it's a stunning vehicle. It's, 500 something miles range, you feel like you're just floating on air, but
Yeah.
then it's $110,000. So, the fact that Ford is really confident that they can roll out a vehicle in 2028 at 30 grand, there's a market for it. I mean, you're around this a hell of a lot more than I am, Eric. Do you feel like this is the right path for Ford, and will there be a market for this vehicle?
I anecdotally, when I talk to people, if I'm driving a different type of vehicle, which is often the case, people, how much is that? And anytime I mention the price, now we're driving usually the fully equipped, top of the line model, so that plays a role. But people are always like, "Whoa, how much? Whoa, how much?" And I think once you start getting under the $40,000 mark and you give something that's actually there's some quality there, there's some desirable features, and it looks good, that's always important. I think there's always a market for that. And people, I think middle America specifically appreciates value. And when you get something they're proud of driving or proud of to spend time in, and they didn't have to break the bank, they don't have a backbreaking car payment, I think there's more appreciation for that. And I do think that there are just a lack of options right now in that range, especially when you said small cars. Well, really, yeah, the Nissan Leaf, the Chevy Bolt, they're small cars. But
Yeah.
now you look at the Maverick priced about the same, if it turns out to be true, you're gonna get a lot more practicality. You got a cargo bed, you got a bigger back seat, you know what I mean? So, that brings the value play up, and so I just think that people are looking for that. I think the Maverick was a good test case, of being like a small truck can be incredibly popular, that's priced right. And now the big question will be, can Ford execute with an electric vehicle platform, fighting against all the other factors, infrastructure, like I mentioned, things like that? Can they deliver a quality truck at that price that people actually want to own? It'll be interesting to see.
I was thinking about Ford in the '50s, with Robert McNamara and all the brain trust, these officers that come out of the military, and Ford swallowed their pride and let these young men and women loose on the company, and they reinvented Ford. In a lot of ways, it feels like this is one of those moments where Ford has to get out of their own way and trust these young people that they've said, "All right, build us this vehicle. Like, all right, let's don't overcomplicate it, over badge it, overbuild it,
Yeah.
and just deliver what we're talking about."
Yeah. No, it seems like that's the route they're taking. And if past history is any example, maybe it's a new era for them. Maybe they get past some of the recall issues and quality issues and hit a home run. So we will see.
And Ranchero, though, I mean, they've it's funny, you can't really do trademarks anymore and get away with it with the internet. You just can't
No,
do that.
no.
People know immediately.
Good for us, bad for them.
As long as they don't call it the F-150E or whatever that Mach-E
Sure.
thing was, that Mustang was so
Yeah.
bad.
Interesting decision. Sure.
Well, it's gonna be fun. Eric, it's a great article, and I know, so what's next? What do you expect are the next steps from Ford? Like you said, a lot of teasing about the facility in Louisville and your concept drawings, and on your team, whoever did this, it's a beautiful. I'm looking at it right now. It's just a beautiful truck. But what are the next steps that we should see from Ford?
I mean, I would imagine now that they have this website set up, they're going to start probably, leaking out leaking, I should say, these little details. Maybe you'll get like a teaser image of the grill, of the headlight. A lot of automakers are kind of going that route where they're like ramping up the excitement by kind of, trickling out these details. So I would imagine in the coming months we start getting, some teasers. We'll probably, in the media start getting some backgrounders saying, "Hey, let's look at the infotainment system," or things like that. So production is expected to start sometime next year. So between now and then, I mean, we're going to find out what it's called. We're going to see, more details, and we'll eventually see the truck before it goes on sale. So, I mean, within the next 12 to 14 months, I mean, it should finally be fully uncovered. And obviously we're going to be following it every step because it's a really important vehicle. And like you said several times, very interesting times. And this kind of, I'm sure GM and Stellantis, they're going to be watching Ford and saying, how does this go? You guys can go first. And either it works out and Ford goes, we got to it first, and we kind of capitalize on that, or there's some setbacks and the other automakers can take notes. So it's going to be fun.
Or is Rivian watching this as well, going, "Huh, felt like we talked about with you guys about this a while ago."
Oh, definitely.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
they got their own, they've got the R2, they've got a big swing on their hands. That
yeah.
needs to be a success as well, and they don't have all the backing of a bunch of, gas and hybrid vehicles and the F-150 sales to lean on. So the electric vehicle landscape is ever changing. So
So here's a prop bet. Will Ford send out in one of their press kits for this if they go with Ranchero, a bottle of Ranchero dressing?
I hope so. And
I
if
do
not, I hope
too.
they see this video and then do it because you got to capitalize it on any way you can. You've got to brand everything.
I'm sure Dan at Ford is watching this right now going, "Really, Jim? That's your takeaway is you're looking for ranch dressing from Ford." I'm just, there's no bad ideas in a brainstorm, Eric. There's
Or
no
are you
bad.
saying genius, genius?
Right. Thank you. Thank you very much. Hey, I appreciate the time. Keep doing what you're doing. Everybody go to Car and Driver. 2028 Ford Ranchero is a $30,000 electric truck worth waiting for. After this conversation, um, I'm going to say yes. I think it is.
I'm hopeful. If
All right.
it's what we expect it to be, I'm hopeful.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Eric.
Yep. Thanks, Jim. Catch you later.